You wake before the sun. Not because you want to, but because the ground is shaking. It's a distant, rhythmic sound, like thunder that never stops. You step outside and the cold air hits your face, but something is wrong with it. It doesn't smell like morning. It smells like smoke, like iron, like fear. You look to the horizon and see a line of dust rising into the sky, slow, thick, and unstoppable. An army. It's not the first you've seen, and it won't be the last because in this land, they always come. Empires rise, and empires burn. You live in a place others call Persia. It is a land of mountains that cut the sky in half, and deserts that swallow armies whole, bones, banners, and all. You have cities so old that no one remembers who built them, and fire temples that have never gone dark. You've watched kings rise like gods and fall like forgotten names. You've heard it your entire life, with every generation and every invasion. This time it ends. But here is what they never understood about this place. It wasn't just a kingdom or an empire. It was something older, something the maps could never fully hold. This land sat at the center of the ancient world, the crossroads between east and west, between the steppe and the sea. Silk, spices, armies, and ideas all moved through here. Every power in the ancient world had one goal in common: control Persia. That desire, that obsession, is what made it impossible to erase, because you can't erase something the entire world depends on. But before you understand the survival, you need to feel the destruction. 330 BC. You are standing in Persepolis, the greatest city on earth, with columns that touch the clouds and carvings that tell the story of 100 nations bowing before your king. This is the heart of an empire that once stretched from Greece to India, boasting 120 provinces and millions of people, the largest empire the world had ever seen. And then the news arrives. A 25-year-old king from Macedonia is coming, and he has never lost a battle. You've heard the names of the cities he took: Granicus, Issus, Gaugamela, each one gone. Your armies were larger, your cavalry feared, but something about this man is different. He moves like fire, fast, unpredictable, everywhere at once. Your king, Darius III, flees, and the royal treasury, a fortune so large it took 10,000 mules to carry, is taken. Then the night comes. You smell it before you see it: smoke. Persepolis, your eternal city, is burning. Some say Alexander ordered it in revenge for the burning of Athens 150 years before. Some say it was an accident. Some say it was a message that Persia is finished. You watch the columns crack from the heat and the carvings blacken and crumble. The flames are so tall they're visible for miles. You think this is the end, where Persia dies. But it doesn't. This is where the story gets strange, because Alexander, the man who burned your capital, begins to dress like a Persian king. He bows to Persian customs, marries Persian women, and adopts Persian court rituals. He doesn't destroy Persia, he becomes it. Within a generation, his successors, the Seleucids, are ruling from Persian thrones, using Persian administrators, and preserving Persian traditions. The conqueror was absorbed, not by force, but by culture. Centuries pass, and empires trade hands like old coins. The Seleucids, the Parthians, the Sassanids. Each one is Persian at its core, rising from the same land, speaking the same language, burning the same sacred fires. By the 6th century AD, the Sassanid Empire has returned Persia to greatness through its art, philosophy, and science. For 400 years, you are again the most sophisticated civilization on earth. Rome respects you, Byzantium fears you, and your borders touch the Mediterranean. 640 AD. The Arabs come. It is not a slow invasion, but a storm. Your army, exhausted from decades of war with Byzantium, shatters at the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah. Within 15 years, the Sassanid Empire is gone. Your last king, Yazdijerd III, dies alone, murdered by a miller in a distant province. No throne, no army, no empire. This time, something more dangerous than fire or conquest begins to happen. The new rulers bring a new faith, Islam, and with it, a new language, Arabic. Slowly, quietly, without violence, your prayers, letters, and the words your children learn begin to change. The old words are forgotten, and the name of your god fades from the lips of the young. Zoroastrian fire temples, burning for centuries, are converted. You begin to wonder, is this how we disappear? Not in a battle or a fire, but in the slow, quiet replacement of everything we are? This is how civilizations truly die, not with screams, but with silence and forgetting. For 200 years, Persian as a written language nearly disappears. Gone. And yet, something underneath the silence refuses to go out. Like an ember under ash, it is small, invisible, but alive. 9th century AD. In eastern Persia, Khorasan, Transoxiana, a new kind of fighter appears. Not a soldier, but a poet. His name is Ridaki, and he writes in Persian, the language that was nearly dead. Something extraordinary happens. People listen. The language never truly died in the hearts of the people. It lived in the villages, the mountains, and the mouths of mothers whispering old stories to children at night. Ridaki doesn't start a revolution. He starts a conversation that becomes a flood. The Samanid dynasty begins to deliberately and passionately revive Persian culture. They fund poets, scholars, and historians, and commission the writing of Persian epics. Then, Ferdowsi appears. He spends 30 years writing one poem, the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings. With 60,000 verses written in pure Persian with almost no Arabic loanwords, it provides a complete mythology and history of Persia. It was an act of cultural resurrection that gave Iran its memory back. Stories of Rostam and Sarab, Zal and the Simorg that weren't just stories, but identity itself. New Muslim dynasties rise, Samanids, Buyids, Ghaznavids, but they are also deeply Persian. They build cities, fund universities, and write science and philosophy in Persian. Ibn Sina writes the canon of medicine, Al-Biruni maps the world, and Omar Khayyam calculates a highly accurate solar calendar. The civilization breathes again, full, proud, alive. 1219 AD. A messenger arrives from the east, and his news empties the color from every face. Genghis Khan is coming, not as a conqueror, but as an erasure. The Mongols don't negotiate, absorb, or rule, they unmake. The city of Merv, a Persian jewel of 200,000 souls, falls in days. What follows takes longer to describe than to happen. The Mongols count over 1 million dead in just one city. Nishapur, Balkh, Khaithan. The great irrigation systems of Khorasan are deliberately destroyed. Without water, the land dies. Without land, the people starve. Without people, the civilization ends. The historian Giovanni writes that the world had never seen destruction like this. Historians estimate that Persia lost half its population in the Mongol invasions, and in some regions, 75%. Cities that had stood for 1,000 years became rubble, and libraries full of memory burned. You look at the ruins and think, finally, this is the end. No civilization survives this. But here is where Iran does the impossible again. The Mongols who destroyed Persia became Persian. Within 2 generations, the Il Khanate converts to Islam, adopts Persian as their court language, and commissions Persian art and architecture. Ghazan Khan rebuilds what his grandfather destroyed. The Mongols came to erase a civilization, but ended up becoming it. Here is the truth no conqueror ever understood. They came for an empire, but Persia was never just an empire, it was a civilization. An empire is power, territory, and administration that can be broken. A civilization lives in language, stories, and the architecture of thought. You can destroy an empire in a decade, but you cannot destroy a civilization in a century. The Persians understood that soft power outlasts hard power. Every time a conqueror arrived, Persia didn't just resist, it absorbed. For over 1,000 years, Persian was the lingua franca of the Islamic world, from Istanbul to Delhi, from Central Asia to East Africa. It was the language of sophistication, scholarship, and power. You lose the battle, but you win the culture, and culture is the longest war. But history wasn't finished. In 1501, the Safavids rise and make Shia Islam the official religion, a decision that reshapes the region and establishes a distinct Persian identity against the Sunni Ottomans and Mughals. For 2 centuries, they fight and build, turning Isfahan into one of the most beautiful cities on earth. Then the Safavids collapse, Afghans invade, Nader Shah rises and falls, followed by the Qajars. European empires tighten around Iran, leading to the constitutional revolution of 1906, where people demand a parliament and rights, an ancient impulse refusing to be ruled without a voice. The 20th century brings oil and foreign interventions, including the 1953 CIA-backed coup. The people endure and remember, culminating in the 1979 revolution. Underneath it all beats the same ancient pulse. We choose who we are. You stand in the present, 3,000 years later. Persia is now Iran. The ancient fire temples are museums, and tourists walk where Xerxes once sat. The language has changed, layered with new influences, yet it is still unmistakably the Persian that Ferdowsi would recognize. The borders have shifted, religions have transformed, and rulers have risen and fallen. But through all of it, the mountains haven't moved, the stories haven't stopped, and the people remain. 3,000 years of survival teaches that power and armies don't keep civilizations alive. The intangible does. The story told to a child, the poem memorized, the recipe passed down. These are what survive. Conquerors failed because they underestimated what they were fighting. They thought they were conquering land, but they were walking into a civilization that goes underground, waits, remembers, and comes back harder and more itself. You look at the dust on the horizon and smell the smoke and fear. You've smelled it before and you'll smell it again. But you are still here. And that is the whole story. So the question I want to leave you with, is there a civilization alive today, right now, that you think could survive what Iran survived? And if not, why not? Think about it.